Hello everyone, I hope we're all doing well. I'm Kirti Sylvia Plath, and in today's session we'll be learning the poem Tulips by Sylvia Plath, and this is part 4. I didn't want any flowers. I only wanted to lie with my hands turned up and be utterly empty. How free it is! You have no idea how free. The peacefulness is so big it dazes you. And it asks nothing, a name tag, a few tickets. It is what the dead close on. Finally, I imagine them shutting their mouths on it, like a communion tablet. By this point, we think we have got a pretty good idea of the speaker's situation, of how she is feeling in this painful moment. So now she takes us back to the flowers we met in the title and in the first few lines. She tells us that she didn't want any flowers. But why not? That's the question that arises in our mind. And then the line takes an interesting turn. It connects with the line that follows. It cuts itself short. For a split second, we are left hanging, wondering what does she want. And in the second line, we come to know that she doesn't want flowers or family or any other happy stuff. She just wants to lie in bed with her hands facing up, feeling utterly empty. That sounds a lot like the feeling that has been running through the whole poem. She desires to be free, or maybe to leave her alone. The speaker is trying to tell us that empty blankness means freedom. She is in a place beyond family and names and all, and she wants to know or let the listeners know that it feels amazing or awesome. Frankly, it is a little hard to believe and what the speaker is telling, and at times we might feel a little bit of scariness by listening to what the speaker is telling. But the poem has this kind of magical ability to put you in a new state of mind, to imagine a kind of freedom you have never dared to even think about. Then this peacefulness is so big it dazes you, and it asks nothing, a name tag, a few trinkets. So this is starting to sound almost religious, this feeling. In her numb, empty state, she is starting to feel quite at peace. And that feeling is such a huge one. It leaves her stunned, shocked, and dazed. The peaceful feeling doesn't ask for anything from you, and that has got to be a relief. All you have to do is hand over your name and possessions. Our speaker doesn't mind that at all. She is rather happy to give up her name and her things to get a taste of that feeling of freedom. In the last two lines of this stanza, the speaker uses a simile to compare the sense of peace to what dead people feel. Dead people, she imagines, swallow that feeling of peace like you would swallow a communion wafer. So this particular stanza ends with another Catholic image. The Catholic image is the communion tablet. The communion tablet or communion wafer is something that we get while we attend a holy mass, which is a part or which is a ritual done by Catholics. Moving on to stanza 6. Tulips are too red in the first place. They hurt me. The speaker wants to be empty and she wants to float away to the peacefulness, but something is stopping her. And what is stopping her? the tulips are the ones who are stopping her. They are interrupting her meditation. It's the bright red color that gets her, and that is what is breaking whatever is soothing her around. The next line, even through the gift paper, I could hear them breathe. It's like a horror movie, isn't it? We feel that the tulips are coming to life. The speaker is telling that she is able to hear the breathing sound of these tulips through the paper in which they are wrapped in. So, this is what you call personification, isn't it? Lightly through their white swaddlings, like an awful baby. So, this line could be understood by a continuation of the previous line also. In the previous line, we came to know that the tulips were breathing and that breathing sound is heard by the speaker. And now, in this particular line, we could see that the tulips were wrapped around with paper, just like how babies are wrapped up in clothes. And here, the tulips are like an awful baby. That is what the speaker is telling. That is, uh, not only are the tulips alive, but they are breathing like an awful baby. So the image of these tulips are just the worst. Their redness talks to my wound, it corresponds. Now she goes a step further in her personification by imagining that the red of the tulips is talking to her surgical wounds. She tells us that the red of the tulips corresponds with her wound. So the word correspond can mean a couple of things. The first thing is that the red color of the tulips is communicating with her wounds, but it can also mean that the redness of the tulips somehow matches her wound. And these are the things that would be the inner meaning of correspond. They are subtle, they seem to float, though they weigh me down. Now the speaker calls the tulips subtle. But how can tulips be subtle? Does she mean they are not very noticeable? Probably not, because we have already seen that the tulips are bright red in color and they are definitely noticeable. Okay, then she might be speaking about that there is something a little bit unknowable about these tulips. They might be mysterious. That is much obvious from the fact that somehow they are both floating and weighing her down. This is what we call a paradox. Lightness and heaviness happening at the same time. And these paradoxes are all over this particular poem. Upsetting me with their sudden tongues and their color. So these tulips really bother the speaker. And the way she describes them reminds us of startling little critters with their sudden tongues darting out. Again, the tulips seem alive and kicking. They are determined to upset our speaker. It's the color too, always the color that really gets to her. She does not like that bright red color. So red is definitely not her shade. A dozen red lead sinkers round my neck. Even more upsetting is this metaphor of the tulips as 12 lead weights around her neck, pulling her under water. This isn't the first time that we have heard about sinking. We have already learned in a couple of lines before about the sinking image that she has described. So these tulips are the ones who are trying to pull her down and making her sink. So that's all for today. I hope today's session was fruitful for you all. See you again in the next class. Bye bye.